And mind you, we do what's called baseline OCT on every single patient that we see that can sit. So every patient that runs through our clinic has OCT done. But in this particular case, we were about 2 weeks into using the new OCTA technology. And 2 weeks into OCTA technology, we had a 50-year-old male that came in for a visit. And when he was in for the visit, we had both of his nerves up side by side. And we were looking at the two nerves side by side and said, there just looks to be a little bit of difference in the perfusion. We weren't looking at the colorized images. This was just looking at what looked like the density of the vessels. And there are new tools that are coming out to measure the density of the vessels, which can give you comparative analysis over time. So we're looking at these two side by side. I said, that right looks weird compared to the left. So I sent him in to his cardiologist. And he had a carotid done. He was 95 roughly percent stenosed on the one side and 70 on the other. Got under treatment with anticoagulants, had no other findings in the retina, no history of high blood pressure, nothing at all. And he stroked before they got him in for his endarterectomy, but because he was on anticoagulant therapy, he ended up surviving the stroke, and not just surviving, but thriving after the stroke. Well, that one for me was, okay, we're doing OCTA on everybody. Even if it was one life that we ended up saving as a result of it, that was enough for me to see it in 2 weeks in. So, just a little picture comparing an FA to a deep retinal angioplex map. So this is your virtual. That's with injected dye. If you want to know if you've got a case, let's say, that was a PED, and you want to know if that PED has a vascular component to it or not, how are you going to tell? OCTA is your differential capability. So last one that I'll get you to is I'll connect you with Forum here. And Forum really exists in this ball that's in the center. It doesn't look like this when it comes into your office. Who has Forum in here? 1, 2, couple, 3. So Forum, let me draw a really critical line of distinction. Forum is a data management system for diagnostics. Your EMR, or your health record, is a data management system for text-based information that's associated with stuff that you've said or a measurement that maybe you have taken. But it has nothing to do with this live data and information that's coming out of these files. These files, these DICOM files, when you shove them through an algorithm, can get twisted in every which way and plugged in to tell you so many different things and connected to many other devices. What Forum does is it takes the tangible potential of one of these dynamic files, and it connects it with the tangible potential of another file, and now you can do something with that. So in Forum, you have these things like called glaucoma workplace or retina workplace that exist, and what those are is it's taking all that data, all that information that you grabbed, all these pieces of equipment that look very different from each other, and it's plugging them together in a usable format, and it's allowing data to drive the exam and data to drive the evaluation of the consultation that you're looking at with the patient. So it can connect different devices, and there are other devices which create impediments, and these are usually based on the way in which another product manufacturer will allow that DICOM data to be used within Forum. Forum is not a diagnostic device in and of itself. The way Forum works, or it's laid out, you've got down this side is the patient name, and these are basically sets of clinical displays that you can put up. You can put into it PDFs or images which are flat. There's nothing in these images that you can do to twist, okay? There's nothing about that, that's a file. But when you take that stuff and you put it into a file that connects, now you get something like a combined report. You could have this with a disk image. I was referencing before a blue filtered disk image coming out of the Clarus that connects directly with what you have happening in your visual field. You can look at, for example, in a nerve like this, where you've got visual field loss here inferiorly, and you can look and you can go, well, superiorly, yeah, there's a drop out of the RNFL, but let's say you didn't have the OCT, but you did have that the blue photo where you're getting a really good resolution on the RNFL. This is where this is going to be very useful for you. And if we take that a step further now, Forum is allowing us to take pieces of information that are no longer in a report format, but these are connected. So here you're looking at an image in November 16, 2010. This is a year later in 2011. That's in January of 2012. And those images are linked, and if I could put this live for you, I could actually grab the cursor on this and scroll it up and down, and each of these images would move connected with each other. I can overlay or run a graphical analysis to show me the actual documented change in the tissue over time. And that's live and not on a report that I got to keep going back. Oh, don't give me that section. Oh, don't give me that section. Oh, don't give me that section. So that is your technology update. I'm going to give you guys a moment to ask any last questions and then give you a moment to refresh your glasses or use the restroom before we get into part 2. Any other questions? Forum or Sita Faster or any of the things we just talked about?
With the HFA3,
Yes.
you saying we could say start a patient on doing like Sita Fast 24-2 and then eventually move them up to a Sita Standard, and it would take the original Sita Fast as the baseline?
Sita Fast and the Sita Faster and Sita all can be used as a combined for your baseline. So let's say that you started with the Sita Standard, okay? And then the next field that you got on the patient was a Sita Faster. Those two can be combined for a baseline. That's what I'm saying. And if you wanted to work in reverse, yes, you wanted to go faster, but I don't know why you'd go that direction if they're equivalent, if that makes sense.
Firstly,
Yeah.
have a copy of that video on the Zeiss website, because we'd like to show our students that it might take some 3 days to learn.
I'm happy to provide it to somebody here. I don't have any problems with it. I have it free of use, so we've used it. I've used it in a lot of different circumstances and situations. Let me just share with you too. Well, yeah. So did I answer that question? Obviously, but any other questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions on Sita Faster.
Yep.
So with Sita Fast and Sita Standard, it's using an adaptive Bayesian algorithm
Yep.
with a certain error tolerance to get an estimate of the sensitivity. How does that error compare in Sita Faster? Because if we're using numerous different thresholding algorithms to track GPA over time, how does it account for greater error tolerance? And in that vein, does it take Sita Faster longer to detect change in GPA compared to Sita Fast and Sita Standard, which is, I guess, the current clinical standard for this group?
So since 11, I'll answer the second question first. Since 2011, it showed that the test is equivalent in its detection capabilities in management over time. To answer your first question, I'm not a scientist and I apologize. I don't have a good answer to that one, but Mike Patella, who is in Zeiss, and that's probably who I'd point him in the direction of, would likely be able to give you a very clear answer on that would run circles around anything I could tell you.
And just last question,
Yep.
Is it available on 10-2?
No, only 24-2. Yeah, and we use, like for our end-stage glaucoma cases, we're using a lot of 10-2 at this point. We're using it for other things where we're playing with some different nutritional components that we're seeing what kind of macular preservation we can get and if we can claw back spots on a 10-2. So that would be really useful because those patients they're long in a 10-2 even at that, and to have a faster algorithm would be useful. But to my knowledge, it hasn't been tested there yet. Maybe it is. But anybody else? All right. I'll give you guys a moment to top off and take a little bit of break. I'll bring us back together in about 5 minutes or so, okay? So I have to tell you that when I was told the kids, so it's our first time in Australia and New Zealand. When I told my kids that we were first coming here, my 7-year-old asked me, since we were going south of the equator, if everybody walked on their hands. And he was surprised when we got here that everybody was still on their feet. So I don't know where I go with that, but it was my 7-year-old. And he has amazing views of the world that teach me new perspectives all the time. My 2-year-old's just 2. Those were our last 2 surprises. Busy. My wife is busier than I am. Yeah. She does the bulk of the heavy lifting for sure. So I'm not on the road all the time, and I hate the podium, as a matter of fact, which is why I'm not really behind the podium. What I really enjoy is I enjoy the discussions. I enjoy getting in a room and hearing questions and throwing out ideas and having new ideas come. And one of the outcomes of those new ideas is the second part that we're going to discuss a little bit. Now, usually this second part is over a round table of maybe 10 or 15 of us in a boardroom style, and we kind of let the gloves off and I facilitate a really healthy discussion that can get fun at times. They're great to record on video. We also, though, decided that a little while back it would be wise to encapsulate some of the pearls that come out of this, because the pearls that I'm going to share with you here are not my own. They're learned from colleagues like ours that are around this room and around the US, and now Australia, I'm sure, will incorporate some of those things. And so there are two leave-behinds that I will draw your attention to, and we'll get these guys to you at the very, very end. One of them has a little Zeiss logo on it here, and the second one has a Clearview, which is my practice back home, logo on it. The one that's with the Zeiss logo on it is a formalized sort of version of our FAQs, our frequently asked questions, that came out of discussions like this second part. And the document that's on my left hand, your right, is a document that we use for giving patients information from a disclaimer standpoint so they understand. And the numbers that are on here are played up, but you'll get the general idea around fees and what their responsibility is. And on the US side, we're required with some of these things to have patients acknowledge some of this stuff ahead of time. The piece that's here is a summary document of the way in which we present something that we call baseline exam. And baseline exam is not the only point of discussion. I want you to understand that what I'm going to talk about next with baseline exam is something that we stumbled on through a series of adventures. And I'll share with you a little bit about that adventure and what that looked like for us as a practice. But those are leave-behinds. We'll make sure you want to make sure you get a copy of those. Secondly, we did a set of videos that I was talking about, and those videos were they're in about 3 to 3.5 minute or so snippets. Zeiss has a practice support program that they developed, and what they do on the back side of that is these videos are snippets on the topics we're covering now, tonight, in this particular part of the discussion. And they're meant to be very useful for you, either from a provider end or from a staffing end, so that you can implement some of the things that we're discussing tonight. So those are your leave-behinds. The videos, I don't have access to those, but your local Zeiss reps here can help you with that and get you connected to those things. So make sure, if you haven't met them yet, because I understand that for some of you they're new faces, make sure you meet them, if for nothing else, to get access to those videos, because those videos I think are really useful. And you can actually download a copy of the document that's here in paper as well, so that you've got that.